Are you sure you know what love is? When you picture medieval love, your mind likely paints a fairy tale. Knights in shining armor, fair maidens, and whispered promises under a moonlit sky. But what if I told you that picture is a lie? That behind this romantic veil lies an abyss of control, violence, and suffering celebrated as art. We will uncover the ghosts of these ideas that still haunt our very own concepts of love today. Join me as we tear down the fantasy and dig into the darkest corners of medieval romance's system so horrifying it makes. Modern relationship red flags look like minor inconveniences. Are you ready to face the truth? To enter a world where happily ever after was never the goal, the art of suffering. Love is a gilded cage for the soul. Forget being loved back. The medieval nobility invented one of the most toxic love philosophies ever conceived, courtly love, where unrequited agony was the highest form of devotion. He dedicates his life to worshipping her from afar, writing poems drenched in sorrow, fighting meaningless battles in her name. The suffering wasn't a side effect. It was the entire point. Picture this: a knight, instead of seeking happiness, chooses to exile himself in an obsession for a woman who belongs to another. The rules of this psychological game were cruel. The ideal lover had to lose sleep, lose his appetite, and lose his mind. The woman's indifference was praised as virtue, while her kindness only intensified his torment. They turned love into a performance of emotional torture, where everyone was required to wear a mask of misery to prove their social status. A question for us today: are we still romanticizing pain? Do we still believe that true love must be a struggle and that peace is boring? Marriage as a marketplace. When humans became commodities, medieval weddings were not a celebration of love, were cold, hard mergers between families. This was a marketplace of flesh and power, where women were turned into assets with a dowry for a price tag. A father's question wasn't who will make my daughter happy, but how much land and livestock do I get in this deal? Women were shipped to their new homes like property, valued as breeding stock and political insurance policies. Love wasn't just irrelevant. It was viewed with suspicion, a potential flaw in the transaction. Children, some as young as 7, were bound by unbreakable marriage contracts. Are we still pricing our partners based on external criteria? A question for us today: does the mindset of marrying well, based on wealth and status, still influence our choices? Even subconsciously? The church's war on pleasure. When desire became a sin, the medieval church didn't just frown upon physical pleasure. It declared a loud war on the most natural human instinct. Their theology twisted desire into a demonic conspiracy. Enjoying sex, even with your own spouse, was considered a sin, preventing true intimacy with our partners. They preached that couples should approach intimacy like taking bitter medicine. Get it over with quickly, feel appropriately guilty, and pray for forgiveness. An elaborate calendar of forbidden days turned marital intimacy into a heavily policed, guilt-ridden act. Women, by their very nature, were seen as traps set by the devil, responsible for luring righteous men into damnation. Marriage became a damage control system for the evil of human sexuality. A question for us today: do the toxic relics of shame and guilt about our own bodies and desires still act as invisible chains? Violence as a love language. When conquest meant romance, what we'd call a restraining order today, the Middle Ages called peak romance. Men didn't court women. They conquered them. Literature glorified knights who literally kidnapped the women they fancied, framing it as a romantic adventure. Violence was the ultimate proof of sincere love. Bloody tournaments were not sport. They were pageants of brutality designed to impress ladies. Do we still mistake possessiveness, jealousy, and control for passionate love? The more willing you were to fight, bleed, and dominate others in the name of love, the more romantic you were considered. Gentleness was mocked as weakness, unattractive. A question for us today: are we still drawn to the bad boy archetype? Violence as a love language. When conquest meant romance, what we'd call a restraining order today, the Middle Ages called peak romance. Men didn't court women. They conquered them. Literature glorified knights who literally kidnapped the women they fancied, framing it as a romantic adventure. Violence was the ultimate proof of sincere love. Bloody tournaments were not sport. They were pageants of brutality designed to impress ladies. Do we still mistake possessiveness, jealousy, and control for passionate love? The more willing you were to fight, bleed, and dominate others in the name of love, the more romantic you were considered. Gentleness was mocked as weakness, unattractive. A question for us today: are we still drawn to the bad boy archetype? Women as prizes. The root of possessive thinking in this world, women were not people. They were collectibles. The entire romantic system was built around men competing to own the most valuable specimens. A wife's adultery wasn't emotional betrayal. It was theft. Another man had stolen the husband's property. Women had no legal identity, no agency. They were transferred from the ownership of their father to their husband. Romance was just the beautiful wrapping paper on a system of human trafficking. The language tells the whole story. Men won, conquered, or claimed women. A question for us today: do the remnants of this possessive mindset still hide in our jealousy? In the desire to control our partners? In the thought, "you are mine"? Death as the ultimate glory, the cult of tragedy, a happy ending, was considered common. The most noble love, according to medieval society, had to end in tragedy. The classic love stories, Tristan and Isolde, Romeo and Juliet, were not warnings. They were held up as the ideal. The message was clear: if your love story doesn't end in destruction, you aren't loving hard enough. Dying of a broken heart wasn't a metaphor. It was considered a noble, literal cause of death. Suicide for love was romanticized as a heroic act. Mutual destruction was the ultimate romantic gesture. A question for us today: are we still obsessed with tragic love stories, believing that a love that is unforgettable must be filled with drama and tears, instead of seeking peace and growth together? Exposing these truths is not about judging the past, but about liberating our present. The ghosts of possession, of romanticized pain, and of control in the name of love still linger. True love is not conquest, a transaction, or an emotional prison. True love is freedom, it is respect, it is mutual growth. Look at your own relationships, at the beliefs buried deep in your subconscious. It is time for us to write a new love story, 21st century story. A story where happily ever after is not a fantasy, but a conscious choice we make every single day.